திகழ்வரதர் கண்டமிது திருக்கணமும் மது சிறந்த திராவிடனர் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போலனை துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம் வியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே.
Thank you, Ms. Soundarya and team. With the blessings of God, with immense pleasure, I invite our beloved Madam, Dr. S. Padmavati, Principal, Sri Shankarlal Sundarbai Shasan Jain College for Women, to welcome the gathering.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anuradha, and my hearty welcome to all of you who are present here virtually for this panel discussion. I know how important it is because I am a person who always believes in domestic saving, in turn saves the country from any pandemic, and whatever we have been over the corona for the past 2 years is also an example of that. And so planning is the foremost thing in everyone's life. It starts from the country at the national level and then goes towards the states and then districts and then the panchayats, whatever it is, and I penetrate it to the household also. Because India has been proving to have domestic savings of 12%, and that's why we are always able to manage ourselves. And I feel that it is the bounden duty of all the educational institutions, especially right from the higher secondary, to impart after the budget is being presented at national level, state level, we all come to the one platform and discuss about it and understand from that age, so that I think we become a responsible citizen of a country, because it is not only the government who is responsible for all this, but we as individual citizens are also responsible towards it, and jointly only we can achieve. So with this small note, I extend my hearty welcome to all of you, especially our panel members, Professor K. Jyoti Sivanyanam sir, the prominent member in TNPSC, and he was the former head of the Department of Economics of our esteemed University of Madras, Mr. Nitin Shankar, the Research Associate, Japan, South Asia, Mr. C.A. A.J. Venkat, the Chartered Accountant from Chandramouli and Associates, Ms. Tejaswini Jagannathan Avanur Alumni, a consultant for Ernst & Young LLP, Mr. C.A. Ravish S. Manyar, the Certified Forensic Audit by ICAI, and Mr. Kiran Wala, Article Assistant. I take this joy to welcome all my colleagues who have joined here and my students. I'm sure that this session will definitely bring the highlights of the budget which was presented yesterday. Thank you very much. Have a nice session.
Thank you, ma'am, for your pleasant welcome. Now, I welcome Dr. B. Anuradha, ma'am, Head, Associate Professor, Department of Commerce General, to introduce our panelist, Dr. Jyoti sir.
Good morning to all present here for the panel discussion. It gives me a great pleasure in introducing our eminent speakers of the day. To start with, Dr. Professor Jyoti Sivanyanam sir, a member of TNPSC and Professor Department of Economics, University of Madras. Sir has, for the achievements received, sir has received University Grant Commission Faculty Improvement Program in 1995, and sir has been awarded the Union Planning Commission's Chair on Planning and Development during 1999 to 2003. And sir has taken up 4 funded projects and currently ongoing project which is funded by RUSA 2.0 for the title Rural Development, Accessing Public Utilities in Smaller Villages in Kannada. Sir has published 70 research articles and 30 books to highlight Tamil Nadu. 14 and 70 of completed full guidance at present 2 MPhil students. More than 100
Hello.
Our hearty welcome to our Associate Secretary, Sir, Sri Harish G. Mehta. Am I audible? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Is there any disturbance because there is a silence for some time?
Just for some time we lost your audio.
Sir?
Yes, now it is fine. Go.
Yes.
and Sahas, four ongoing the funded projects currently ongoing. The funded project by which is funded by RUSA 2.0 on the topic rural development, accessing public utilities in smaller villages in Tamil Nadu. Sahas published 78 research papers and 30 books to highlight some adoption of recommended doses of fertilizers on soil test basis by farmers for paddy and groundnut in Tamil Nadu, and impact of National Food Security Mission on input use, production and income generation. And under SARS guidance, 14 students have been awarded the PhD doctorate and 70 students have completed MPhil, and currently 8 students are pursuing PhD and 2 students are pursuing MPhil. SARS delivered more than 100 special lectures at conference, seminar, workshops, and has delivered more than 25 lectures at refresher and orienters courses. With regard to the administrative experiences, SAR has taken up various portfolios as UGC nominated member of advisory committee for UGC SAP at Annamalai University from 2018 to till date, and convener of syndicate subcommittee on discipline and student welfare committee, University of Madras, director for publications, University of Madras, dean research department, University of Madras, and member of editorial board of Madras University Journal, and has been an expert for evaluation of major minor research projects funded by UGC and Indian Council of Social Science Research, New Delhi. And various policy brief and alerts are submitted to the Honorable Prime Minister's office on the topic e-totem.com, electronic form in Tamil Nadu, farmer distress in Kerala due to COVID-19, changing patterns of turmeric production in Tamil Nadu, challenges of ginger cultivation and trade in Kerala, and to add on many more. Sir has appeared in various television channels like Pudiya Talamurai, Malai Murasu, Vigadan TV, Tandi TV, News 18 and DD Podigai on various topics for World Population Day, stopping of gold loan from cooperative banks and societies in Tamil Nadu, state of Indian economy, and many more. We welcome you, sir. Happy to have you here. And to introduce Nitin Shankar, Research Associate, Behavioral Development Lab, J-PAL, South Asia. Sir has an hands-on experience on AI, machine learning, text analytics, and with software, Python, and LaTeX, etc. Sir has previously worked with consulting firms on data analytics projects involving machine learning techniques, junior economist in Northern Economic Consulting, and knowledge management analyst at the World Bank, Chennai. We welcome you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Dr. Anuradha, before we could start the session, I request our Associate Secretary, Dr. Arishji Mehta, to share a few words and bless all of us for the successful of the
Yes,
day.
yes. Welcome you, sir.
I welcome the panel members for this budget trends to be discussed. And I think this will be useful for the students to learn about the budgets, how it is being prepared and what is being announced and what is being implemented. And I thank the principal for taking this initiative for this good move on the budget trends to be discussed in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good morning, all. And now we are going to introduce, it's our pleasure and indeed our happy to introduce our next panelist, CAKJ Venkatesh sir. He's a fellow chartered accountant and he is known as KJ in his circle. And he's a partner of Chandramouli and Associates, a chartered accountancy firm rendering comprehensive professional services, which include audit management consultancy, tax consultancy, accounting services, manpower management, secretarial services, etc. He is having a total experience of 2 decades spread over the World Bank, Chennai as part of Quality Assurance, Head, Finance and Global Innovative Media and Cinema Production Company, which has produced and distributed films in Kerala. Notably, Global United Media was awarded by Guinness World Records for world's largest poster for the film Bahubali, which was created during the audio launch event at Kochi, Kerala. He was also associated with AGS Cinemas Multiplex and has worked in entertainment sector, all 3 verticals: production, distribution, and exhibitor. He has the experience in handling the finance, company procurement, formation funding. He has also handled the international accounting and finance. His family is also educational. They are running the schools, J Nursery and Primary Schools in Adambakam, which is also celebrating the Golden Jubilee year in the current academic year of 2022. We are very happy to have you, sir. We welcome you, sir, for the panel discussion. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to give your deliberations. Thank you, sir. He's also the parent of Shift2. We are very happy to have you as a parent also, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thanks.
Thank you. And we have now the young, charming Tejaswini. We are very happy to introduce her. She is working she has the experience of internship she is having at Thornton India Limited. And she is now working as a consultant in Ernst & Young LLP, working in internal audit, IFC framework, design, and IFC review. And she's having a wonderful experience and she is deliberating in many webinars in our college. We welcome you, Tejaswini ma'am, and we are happy to have you with us. Thank you.
She is our own alumni and we are proud of her. Thank you so much.
Good day to everyone. I am very happy to introduce our panelist, Honorable Ravish Maniya. He has completed his education from Pune University. He has been associated with a number of companies to provide services related to finance and accounting. His expertise includes project financing, subsidy, income tax, and GST. He is company secretary and certified forensic auditor by ICAI. Ravish Maniya is a fellow chartered accountant with over 10 years of experience in financial consultancy, accounting, taxation, project consultancy, and audits. We are very eager to hear your discussion, sir. And the next panelist, Kiran Mala. Happy to introduce our alumni, Kiran Mala. She has completed her BCom in Sashun Jain College, and she has completed her intern, completed articleship at Rupa Shekhar and Associates. During her articleship, she was exposed to the bank audit, GST returns, IT return filing, and bookkeeping services. Now working as a paid article assistant in RACS and Associates. The firm deals with professional services of auditing, taxation, and consultancy. Once again, the hearty welcome to all the panelist members. We are very eager to your discussions.
Thank you, teachers, for introducing all our panelists of the day. Now, we are extremely elated to have an inspirational panelist, Professor Jyoti Sivanyanam, sir, member TNPSC, amongst us today. Sir, I feel honored to invite you to address the gathering.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Respected principal of this great institution, Dr. Padmavati, and the Associate Secretary of the Management, Dr. Harish Mehta, and the Head of the Department of the Commerce, Dr. Anuradha, and my co-panelist, Dr. Nitish Shankar, KJ Venkatesh, Tejeshwari Jagannathan, Ravish Maniar, and Kiran Mala. For all of you, I convey my greetings and pleasure to be with you for this lecture. You are given 15 minutes, so I will be brief. I will be brief within that time. See, normally, since you are all students, you should know how to look at the budget. So normally people will be looking at the budget, keeping themselves as the interest, keeping their own interest in mind. What is there in the budget for me? So every section, if it is middle income, they will be looking for some tax concession. Corporates, they will be looking for some concession for them. Like that, the people of different sections, the people will be looking for looking at the budget from their own personal perspective. But the question is there any other way in which the budget can help every one of us? Whether the budget is capable of helping all of us together instead of addressing a particular section, the interest of a particular section. That is the basic question. So yes, it is possible, provided when the budget addresses certain basic objective of its own. Normally, budget is expected to address some of its own objective. What is the basic textbook level objectives of any budget is the macroeconomic objectives of the economy. So these macroeconomic objectives are growth. The economy should grow. So if it grows at a faster rate, the benefits are employment generation, income generation. So everybody will get benefit. And there should not be any inflation, stability. There should be stability in the economy. So there should not be any ups and downs in the growth or any inflation. The supply of money should be proportionate to the value that we create in the economy. And then distribution. The benefits of the growth should be distributed to different sections of the society. So these are the basic objectives of any budget. So if you look at the budget in terms of these objectives, definitely if the budget is capable of helping addressing all these objectives, it will benefit all of us. It will benefit the country as a whole. In addition to these three objectives, yet another objective of any budget, most important objective of any budget is the immediate economic challenges, the immediate economic or other social challenges. So we have all these issues right in front of us. For instance, growth. growth is a challenge. The budget has to address it because it has declined. It has declined during the pandemic. It went to negative 7.3. It is revised as 6.6 during 2021. Now it revived, but it has not reached the V-shaped recovery. The last economic survey talked about V-shaped recovery. We have not yet reached that V-shaped recovery, just above the pre-pandemic level. And the pre-pandemic level is not that much rosy situation, because the last quarters of the two quarters of the pre-pandemic level, we have recorded a growth rate of 3.3 and then 3%. So in terms of our potential growth rate, 8 to 9%, the 3.3 or 3% is a very, very meager growth rate. That was the pre-pandemic level. But even there are debates whether we have achieved that pre-pandemic level, because this 21-22 advanced estimate has got only actuals for the first 2 quarters. The other 2 quarters are estimates. So as far as the first 2 quarters estimate is actuals are concerned, we have not yet crossed the pre-pandemic level. So the half yearly growth of the pre-pandemic year 1920 is somewhere around 71 lakh crore GDP. The value of GDP is 71 lakh crore, whereas this half, after 2 years of pandemic, the 21-22, the first half shows 68 lakh crore. So it is still below the pre-pandemic level, the half yearly growth, for which we have actually got data. So the remaining half is an estimation that may be subject to revision subsequently. So normally we do it. We can revise it downwardly. That has happened many times in the past. So we have not comfortably reached the pre-pandemic level, though it is at a lower level. So the budget is expected to address this concern, and it can address it by looking at the problems, the constraints for the growth. So that I will come to a little later. And another problem is inflation. As far as stability is concerned, inflation is another major challenge, though it is a global issue, global concern. Around the world, there is inflation because many countries have pump primed the economy and spend huge money for the stimulus. So there is a huge circulation of money, and the prices, food prices, everything started rise. In addition to the external conditions, imported inflation, we have our own reasons for higher inflation. One is the monetary policy. Last couple of years, or ever since the Reserve Bank governor took charge as a RBI governor, he has been cutting the interest rate in order to stimulate growth. We have 2 ministries in the finance ministry. We have 2 ministries. One is the finance ministry, which is responsible for fiscal policy, and the RBI, which is responsible for monetary policy. So all along, the responsibility of heavy lifting the growth is left to the shoulders of RBI. So RBI reduced the rate of interest, hoping that the lower rate of interest or cost of money will encourage more lending. People will come forward, borrow money and invest and consume, so that the demand will get revived and the growth will get encouraged, investment will boost. But this has not happened. Instead of reviving the economy, what happened is it has actually increased the price level. There is an excess money supply in the economy, so that increased the price level. So in addition to the external factors, this internal factor is at another reason for a higher level of prices. The wholesale price is in 2 digits, and retail inflation is around 6%, our higher level. And food inflation, if you separately look into food inflation and fuel inflation, they are in double digits, particularly fuel inflation. So fuel inflation, almost 2/3 of the price is taxes by the union and the state government. So they also contribute, particularly diesel prices, they also contribute inflationary pressure across the board, because we transport most of our goods, agriculture and other goods, raw materials, everything through road and rail transport, which is run by diesel. So automatically, when the price of input prices increases, everything will increase. So that is yet another reason. So inflation is very high. And then the distribution concern. See, there are number of studies. For instance, AXPOM and other reports have come out, have been coming frequently. Thomas Piketty has given World Inequality Report. All these reports shows that poverty has increased. For the last 70 years, the poverty has been coming down, though not the expected level, but it is marginally coming down. This is the first time it has increased. For instance, the last 2 years, 46 crore people have been pushed below facial poverty line, according to ASPAM report. Similarly, inequality in terms of income and wealth has extended extensively during this period. So all those things are the concerns. Growth, decelerating growth, increasing inflation, inequality, and poverty and unemployment. Along with inequality, poverty has increased and unemployment has increased to a historical high level. So it is continuously increasing, particularly the unemployment among the educated has increased. So these are the challenges the budget is expected to address. So if the budget is capable of addressing these issues, definitely it will benefit all of us. But let us see whether the budget has addressed it fully. So normally we economists look into the budget only through the budget numbers, not the speeches. So I will suggest, if the students are having your mobile phone, please type indiabudget.com, .gov.in, in nic.in. India budget. Just if you type India budget in Google, you will get the site where you can get the actual budget documents. There are 13 documents. So I am going to take one single document that is called Budget at a Glance. You can see this document. So Budget at a Glance, you can pick up PDF documents. So that gives a summary. That gives the summary of the budget in numbers. So let us discuss budget in terms of those actual numbers instead of the speech, because the speech the finance minister delivered is political. Basically, it is a budget speech, is a political document. So the actual numbers you can get it from the budget documents available in the website. See, there are if the students are able to click their mobile, you can keep this page, Budget at a Glance. So in that page, there are 4 years, there are 4 columns, 4 numbers will be given. 2021 actuals, that is for the year financial year 2021, what happened to our budget, our fiscal condition actually, what is the revenue, expenditure, deficit, everything will be given audited statement, actual. And then there are the second and third column, which will give the same for 21 and 22. The first one is, the second column is a budget estimate, last budget what the finance ministers announced for 21, 22. And then the third column will give the revised estimate, what actually happened, because it is January. So during the last 10 months, the actual numbers, actual revenue and expenditure, everything the government would have got it. Based on that, they will project for the remaining period, 1 or 2 months, and give a revised estimate. So the budget estimate is what finance minister announced for the current fiscal during the last budget, and the revised estimate is what happened actually up to this point. So that is the third column. And the fourth column is the budget estimate for the coming fiscal 22-23. That is the financial year after the completion of this particular final March. From April onwards, the next financial year commences. So she has given budget numbers for the coming financial year. So we can look into both actually, what happened actually for the current financial and what she has announced for the next fiscal year, so that we can see. Now, first let us take the budget for the coming financial year 22-23. So 22-23, see, we can ask a simple question. See, what's the simple question to see the budget? See the entire budget in terms of its perspective, in terms of its potential, in terms of its capability in addressing these macroeconomic objectives. Let me ask a simple question. The question is, what is the sector for which the allocation is the highest? Do students, any of the students can answer? You would have seen the budget in the newspaper. If possible, you would have opened this budget at a glance right now in your mobile. You can look into the same page. So budget at a glance, the last column actually, and the details will be, allocation will be given subsequently. So will anyone answer what is the sector for which the highest allocation is given from the budget? Any student? Madam, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Other students are listening?
Yes, sir, they are.
Check. Is there anyone? Health, education, road, infrastructure, capital, investment is finance minister spoke about so much about investment. Any guess? Which sector has got the highest allocation?
So they are viewing through YouTube, sir. They are not in Zoom. They are not having access.
Okay. It's okay. Hey, let me give the number. See, the highest allocation is given for interest payment. Government is paying interest for the money it borrowed. It borrows money because it could not meet all its expenditure through the revenue available. The revenue available with the government is not enough to meet its expenditure. So they borrow. Now for those borrowing, it has to pay the interest. Now that interest is the highest allocation. That interest expenditure is the highest allocation within this 22-23 budget. How much it is highest? Whether it is whether it is small or big, how will you see the absolute number? The number is, the actual interest payment is 9,40,000 crore or 9.41 lakh crore. The Tamil Nadu budget is somewhere around 3 lakh crore. This is almost 3 times of our Tamil Nadu budget. The Tamil Nadu entire budget is 3 lakh crore roughly. So it is 3 times of the state budget. That is the amount of money we are paying as interest for the borrowed for the debt with the union government. In another dimension, relatively, how much the union government collect as a tax revenue, within that, what is the share of this expenditure? We can see that also. So relatively, what is the relative significance of this magnitude? So how much the next year the budget estimated to collect the tax revenue? What is the size of the tax revenue, net tax revenue available to the central government? That is, which they can spend it on their own. What is available to them as a tax revenue for the 22-23? That is 19.4 lakh crore. In the fourth column, this is the second number. If you have the document, just you type budget at a glance PDF, you can get it from Google. So 19.4 lakh crore is the revenue the union government collect as a tax from different taxes, all the taxes. There are 2 direct taxes, the corporate tax, income tax, and the indirect taxes, GST, excise, customs, all those things are there. So all together, all of the taxes put together, the union government collects 19.4 lakh crore as its tax revenue. Now, what is the size of this interest payment within the tax revenue? It is 49%. The union government collects 19.4 lakh crore as a tax revenue. That is on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, the interest payment is the highest expenses, and that constitute 49%. So out of the total tax revenue, almost half of the revenue is given as interest payment. Can you imagine? Are you able to understand? So half of the tax revenue is given as interest payment. Now, what is the expenditure the union government has budgeted for the next year? Total expenditure. So the total expenditure the government budgeted is 39.45 lakh crore. 39 lakh crore, 39.5 lakh, roughly keep it 39.39.5 lakh crore. So 39.4 lakh crore is the total expenditure, budgeted expenditure. The revenue, tax revenue collected is 19.4 lakh crore. Within that, the highest expenditure is 9.4 lakh crore for interest payment. So the remaining 10 lakh crore is available for other expenditure. So even from 39 lakh is the interest payment, we deduct the interest payment. So 30 lakh, the remaining expenditure is 30 lakh crore. But the money available, revenue available is just 10 lakh crore. Can you imagine? The government has to spend 30 lakh crore other than interest payment. But the revenue available after deducting for interest payment is just 10 lakh crore roughly. So that is the relative dimension of this actual budget for 22-23. So the question of borrow, the other source of revenue, one more source of revenue is disinvestment. The disinvestment has not delivered as much as the government expected. For instance, the last year, they have given some 1.72 lakh crore, but that has not been realized. Some 9,000 crore or something they have realized. Earlier also they would not realize much. So all the years they could not, almost 95% or 97% they could not realize. Just 2 to 3%, at the maximum 5% they realized the disinvestment target. So that is yet another source of revenue for the government. But that has not succeeded so far until now. So all put together, their revenue receipts is 22 lakh crore, of which if you remove 9.5 lakh crore, the remaining is available to meet the expenditure of 39 lakh crore minus interest payment 30 lakh crore. So what the government will do? They will borrow. They don't have any other option except to borrow. So their expenditure, including interest payment, everything, forget about interest now. Half of the tax collected is spent for interest payment. Now let us come to other total magnitude. The total expenditure is 39.4 lakh crore. The total revenue the government collects is 22 lakh crore. And they borrow roughly about 16.6 lakh crore. 16.6 lakh crore is the borrowing. And as a ratio of GDP, it is 6.4%. Now the interest payment alone as a ratio of GDP is 3.6%. We have enacted an act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. That act is passed in Parliament based on public choice theory, economics. In economics, we have a public finance separate subject. Within public finance, public choice is one of the subjects. The public choice economics argues that politicians are basically irresponsible, fiscally irresponsible. So how can you fix responsibility? Budget making is a prerogative of the elected representative, political representative. You make the budget, but we will fix through the constitution, we will fix certain limits on your fiscal behavior. You can spend any amount, you can collect any amount, but your borrowing should be within 3% of the GDP. What is your total GDP in the country? Within that, you can borrow 3%, not more than that. Fiscal deficit. Revenue deficit. Revenue deficit means how much you are spending for the, how much you are borrowing for the day-to-day expenses. The borrowing is not an issue. You can borrow and buy a house. Imagine if you borrow and spend it for your hotel or cinema or a dress, routine expenses for which you have to pay an interest. The borrowing will cost you as an interest. So you cannot spend the borrowed money for revenue expenditure, that is day-to-day routine expenses. So the revenue deficit should be zero. This is the target fixed by FRBM. Similarly, there is a target for debt, public debt, past borrowing. How much you are already borrowed. So that target is 40% public debt, 40% of GDP. Your debt should not exceed 40% of the GDP. The union government, 40%, 20% for the state government. Now our debt GDP ratio is 90%, 92 or 93%, I guess, of which the highest percentage is 60% is the union government. So these are the targets given by FRBM. Now here, our fiscal deficit is 6.4%. Last year it was 6.9%. Now it is 6.4%, and the revenue deficit is 3.8%, almost 70%, 68.4 exactly, roughly 70%. So what we borrow, 16.6 lakh crore we borrow. Of the borrowed amount, 68 or 70% is spent for revenue expenditure, which is supposed to be zero. I am borrowing and spending it for my day-to-day activities. Can you imagine how responsible our fiscal position, how precarious our fiscal position is? So your revenue, tax revenue collection, 50% goes to interest payment. That is not expenditure. This period, to stimulate the economy, demand has to be stimulated, investment has to be made, but the government doesn't have much of money. So they pay half of their tax collection for interest payment alone because they already borrowed. So to meet further expenditure, we borrow more. So it is not the pandemic alone responsible for this situation. The major reason responsible for this situation is a tax collection. Our tax GDP ratio is far below at the international standard. All around the world, across the world, as an average, the tax GDP ratio for all the countries in the world is 34%. As an average, every country collects 34% of their GDP as a tax revenue, and they are able to spend it. You know the size of tax GDP ratio in India, the union government. Now this year, the current year completed year, the tax GDP ratio is just 7.6% union government. So it never crossed 10%, it was 10%, 12% before they took charge, but it has come down 3%. Put together the state government, it is around 15 to 16% of GDP. As an average, the world countries are having 34% of GDP as tax GDP ratio, tax revenue. They collect 34% of their national income as tax revenue. Whereas we collect together total not more than 16%. And the union government collect less than 10%. Exactly now it is 9%. This year it is 9%. Out of our total GDP, the union government collects, out of every 100 rupees of GDP, the union government collects only 9 rupees as a tax revenue. So where they are missing the petrol fuel taxes, I told you that they are very high. So where they miss the tax, it is in the direct taxes. We don't collect direct taxes. We put the excess burden on indirect taxes. Indirect taxes, students, you must be knowing, it is highly regressive because it doesn't differentiate rich and poor. Inequality is very high, I told you. One of the antidote for inequality is you have to collect more direct taxes and less of indirect taxes. But we do the reverse. We collect just 1/3 of our total tax revenue is direct tax and 2/3 is indirect taxes. So when you collect indirect taxes, rich and poor pay the same tax. TVS 50 as well as Audi car will pay the same price for the petrol. So that is regressive. Whereas the progressive means as and when your income increases, you should be able to pay, you should be paying more taxes, or the government should collect more taxes from you. And that is possible only in direct tax revenue. And all together, put together, both direct and indirect taxes, we collect less tax revenue. So whether it is sustainable, your tax GDP ratio, the union government only collect 9% as the tax revenue, but the expenditure is 16%. This year, the completed 21-22, you collect just 9% as tax revenue, and you spend 16% of the GDP, almost more than twice, roughly about twice. So the remaining expenditure you have to borrow, and out of the revenue you pay half of it your tax revenue for the interest payment. So this is the situation. This is the reason why the allocation has not been increased for social sector, health, education. So number of other sectors has not witnessed any increase. Even the investment has not happening. 111 lakh crore investment. The national infrastructure pipeline you would have heard about 2 years. So that has not been materialized. 6 lakh or 7 lakh this budget allotted investment, but some of them are transfers to the state government on conditions. So they have to fulfill those conditions to avail those grants. So all those things has not happened so far. So 111 lakh, how much we have invested so far? No information is available. So had we made investments earlier, the economy would have recovered. So our potential to grow is 8 to 9%, whereas we have not fully recovered to the pre-pandemic level, which is pathetically a lower level. So I will stop with that. If you have any clarification subsequently after the presentation of other co-panelists, I am happy to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable inputs, the comparative analysis on the budget, and in-depth data on each expenditure value, all those stuff. And we'll definitely encourage our students to browse with the source which you gave, budget.com, and I think they'll enhance their knowledge on the budget. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, madam, can I leave or?
Yeah. Yes, sir. If you're interested, you can stay, sir. Otherwise,
No,
yes.
I have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there is any question, I am happy to clarify right now. 1 or 2 questions. Otherwise, okay.
Yes, the question session is at the end of
Okay,
the panel
thank you.
discussion.
Okay.
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
take
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to have a sensational speaker, Mr. Nitin Shankar, Research Associate, J-PAL South Asia, amongst us. Sir, I feel privileged to invite you to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, ma'am. Hope you all can hear me. So first of all, thanks for the management for inviting me to this great discussion on the budget 2022-23. And I thank the students for listening to us all. It is very important for you to understand what is going on in nation, especially from the financial perspective. And I'd also would like to thank and greet all the panelists over here who are shedding the light on various aspects of the budget. Thank you one and all present over here. And sir has given a fascinating speech, and I don't think so I can add much more value in terms of the macroeconomic figures. He has already given, he has covered most of the issues that has been going on, especially fiscally for the past few years in terms of the budget planning and implementation. And before I proceed on to give my perspective on this budget, I would like to inform you all that I'm here on my personal choice, and my opinions are not from any of my organizations I've been working with or worked with previously. This is entirely my personal perspective that I have going to share on the budget that has been addressed yesterday. So before we jump onto the highlights of the budget, sir has given you an idea of what a budget is in general and what are the major objectives. So he has really covered in depth the major objectives of a budget. But I just like to brush off the very basic element of the budget, what is a budget? And it's not just necessary for like a nation to have a budget, like as the principal ma'am was saying. The budget is important for any individual as such. Like it is generally just your expenditures, like you would be looking at the past receipts and expenditures that you've accrued, and like, you know, the borrowings, the lendings, all you have in general. And you'll be planning out for the future, what you like to do in the future. For an individual, it might be easier, but for nation, one has to, especially for a nation where, like, you know, there is 1.35 billion population is there. It is not easy. And the reason is that, like, as Sir was saying, like, there is a lot of borrowings and a lot of macroeconomic indicators to be addressed, like, you know, your distribution and like your inflation and all other aspects should be addressed. So it should be planned in a rigorous way that, like, you know, we are protected from all ends. And one more important thing to look into the budget is not just the budget like that has been planned for the future, but what has been achieved in the past in respect to the expectations. So, like, you know, in the previous budgets, they were talking about, like, you know, the 5 trillion economy and, like, you know, basic income for like the farmers, and what have been addressed is something we have to look into. I'm not going into the details of what were the achievements due to the time constraint, but I would like to point out to you to how to look into the budget as such. It's not just, as I was saying, it's not like any, you shouldn't be just looking into the speech as a political stunt, not just the numbers, I would say, because the numbers could be, you know, the numbers are real to some level, but it can't be like, you know, something like you can't trust to an entire level, right? Like whether it is the expectation, the estimates that we are going to achieve in the future, or what we have achieved in the past in numbers, it is something, just not look at the numbers as such, but we have to dig deeper into how the numbers have been created as such, and like how it is calculated. There has been a lot of issues on, like, you know, how the GDP has been calculated, not just with respect to this government, for the sake, like for any government. So these are all like some like details you have to look into when you're addressing any budget, like, you know, when you're going through any budgets, like so that's something like everyone should be aware of. So with that, I'd basically jump into the overall picture of like yesterday's budget. I won't be going to the details of, like, you know, all the macroeconomic or even like other aspects. And Sir was already has established, like, you know, there is a shortfall in like in the receipts of the government budget when like considered to the expenditure, especially in terms of the interest towards the borrowings. That is absolutely true. Like, we've been facing a lot of shortfall, and it is not uncommon for a nation to borrow. But as he was saying, like, there should be a cap on like how much we should be borrowing. And the reason you have to understand, like, you know, why we are borrowing like such a huge amounts, like, yes, like as he was saying, like, unless we maintain a strict restriction over how the percentage we are borrowing, like, it won't be easy for the governments coming in the future to repay. The nation could like, you know, like, you know, jump into some kind of stagflation, even if we are not able to achieve the growth. But then inflation is growing because, like, there is why such a stage could be reached. Like, stagflation is something like we are not able to grow further, but at the same time there's inflation increasing. That stage could be reached when we are not, like, when there is like a lot of inequality in the distribution as well. Like, one section of people could afford a lot, so they could be spending more, but then there is large proportion of people who are not able to afford much, and also they're not able to grow because they don't have the social system to grow, the social infrastructure, which involves like education, health, and other basic aspects like even food. And these are very necessary for the nation as a whole to grow. It's not just the inflation. Inflation is just the, you know, the rise in price. which could be driven by just one section of the people if they are able to afford it. So this is, and not just the stimulus we are giving, because the stimulus again would not be reaching in a very distributed manner for that reason, like we are not planning it out well. So it is important for the nation to, the government to address the social infrastructure, which is like education, health, and other basic aspects, and also to address the inequality in the nation, as Sir was saying. So with that, like, I would just like go over, like, what has been the highlights of yesterday's budget. So the reviews has been like mixed about like yesterday's budget, on a more like on a negative side from most people. To be precise, this share market has fell to a large level, and like it has sharply fallen after the budget, like about 1% or just over that, like 200 points in Nifty. And this fall has been like the worst in the past 12 years as per data, and but it has recovered soon after. But this gives the picture of what people's expectations were, and it is clear that it has not been met. And like, unlike Sir was saying, like the people were expecting the tax regime to be easier on the middle incomes people. He was not mentioning that, like Sir was mentioning that, like, tax income has to increase, which is definitely like, as in the tax receipts should be increasing, which is true. But the problem is that, like, people are feeling that the middle income groups have been taxed on a higher level, whether it is the old regime or the new regime, which has reduced all the deduction parts, like, the standard deduction, various aspects of the deduction, health insurance and other insurance of LTA, HRA, and all the deductions have been kind of removed in this new regime, which is again followed in the recent budget as well. So this was introduced, the new regime tax system was introduced in the previous budget, and it has been kept almost the same, except for a few additions, like, the state and central government's tax deductions has increased to 14%, like in terms of NPA and stuff. So unlike these elements, most of the things have been kept just as the same. When you look at the irony, like the EW is the economically weaker section, to be considered as an economic weaker section, or even for a BC backward community person to be considered as an non-creamy layer to come under OBC, the income level ceiling kept is 8 lakh per annum. But the tax system is even like just like, even if you just marginally cross 8 lakhs or 7.5 lakhs, or even just below 5 to 7.5 lakhs, the tax system is still heavy. As per the whole regime, like it's above 5 lakhs, you have to pay 20% tax. And even in the new regime, it's below 7.5, it's 10%, and above that 20%. So it's still 15%, still highly on the middle income, till, like, even if you're earning under 20 lakhs, you have been taxed quite highly, is the people's expectation. There is not much has been done in the recent budget. So there are a lot of well-educated chartered accountants and people who are more into the tax arena are here. So I would leave them for like the details of that. With that, I'll jump on to the other elements, other highlights of the budget. In terms of education, health, and agriculture is something people were not really satisfied. Manufacturing is something people were quite, the stimulus towards manufacturing was something satisfactory as per many sources. But at the same time, service sector has not been addressed properly, because service sector is something which we have been growing faster in our country. And in terms of health, especially if you look into like economic survey, which is also a very important thing to look into when you're addressing like any budget announcement, because as I was saying, it's not about the future just like, but the recent past is also very important in terms of how we've addressed the past. So one of the very crucial element in the last economics, like in the recent economic survey, is that the lack of concern towards the pandemic, especially the second wave, how there is lack of proper government stimulus, as in like government infrastructure provision towards the health it's not just people have been running for oxygen and stuff, but people were not able to afford it or like get regular medicines. Not just the lack of money, but the lack of availability, lack of preparation. That has been a concern in the latest economic survey. So these are the, not the just the macroeconomic fiscal elements government should be concerned while planning a budget, but like all these, ad hoc things and like something, when you had a pandemic year, like how would you prepare for the next few years when still the pandemic is going to be here? And if you're not like caring enough by providing more towards the health sector or like, establish more health infrastructure and like addressing these things from the planning of the budget, like it is going to be difficult for the government to, when it is coming to the implementation section. And apart from the like, the health, which has not been addressed clearly, like, but there is one big positive element. Again, like we have to look into the future to see how it is going to be implemented. But there is a very minor but significant step taken towards the mental health. Like a lot of there are 23 mental health counseling service providing units to be set up in the future, which is a great initiative. But we don't know to what extent that will be implemented properly. But otherwise, the entire health sector has been not happy with the recent budget as per like different media sources. And the next is the education. There hasn't been much effort towards education in terms of like, in terms of numbers, there is some allocation, but like towards what it has been allocated is the bigger question. Because there is like, again, like similar to One Nation, there is something towards like, one education system, like providing education system through one streamlined internet based education provision. Like we are not clear about like what is the clear plan towards that and how it is going to be implemented. But there are a lot of sources commenting towards the privatization because there is not, except for this kind of tele-education service, there is not much allocations towards the other education infrastructure, is what like the sources are saying. And towards agriculture also, there is, we haven't, like there are like information about like how drones will be assisting like vegetation and crop assessment and spraying of insecticides and nutrients, but those are the major announcement made, but nothing major towards like the farmers, not even similar to what we had in like the past about like the farmers' basic income, and we are not clear about the numbers what they have been in the past, and there are a lot of monetary incentives to be provided from the monetary policy side as towards the farmers, like because like farmers' debt has been increasing forever, and when the banks have been able to write off the debts of the corporates like for thousands of crores, we are still not able to write off the debts of, if you consider like the overall nation's farmer state, like maybe one of the states debt could be just similar to one corporate defaulters debt, right? Like, so there are a lot of support should be given from the monetary policy side as well, that is still lacking, as Sir was saying. And one more interesting point about which SAR has addressed already is like already the fuel prices have been increasing, and there is an increase in the duty towards unblended petrol and diesel, which will again increase the petrol for like day-to-day consumers, petrol and diesel prices, for especially diesel prices, maybe up to 2 rupees easily for day-to-day consumers, which is again very much unexpected from the government, which is like unwelcoming from all the sectors on all the people especially. And another major announcement is about the digital currency, which may not be like, which may sound to some extent like, we have major tasks to in our hand, like as I was saying, like a lot of macroeconomic issues are going, but then we are concerned about introducing digital currency, which would require some effort and like investment towards that. The rationale from the government is to it is easier to it's easier for accountability, like the fake currencies and stuff could be eliminated through digital currency, and they've been planning from July. So currently there are two nations which have already implemented this thing. One is Nigeria and another one is Bahamas. And we are not clear about the rationale from their side, because maybe it is the inflation and the corruption that has been going has made them introduce those systems. And another, there are other nations which are mostly in Asia and the Eurasian continent. Like one is major. China has been planning for a while. The Bank of China has been planning for a while, and Kazakhstan has been a forerunner of this digital currency, because they've been favorable towards the cryptocurrency as well. And there is Russia. So these are the major countries that have been, even Brazil has been planning. Except for China, like Russia, Brazil, Kazakhstan, all the places have inflation rising. And also there is corruption increasing in all the nations. And maybe that is one of the reasons why even India is planning to introduce digital currency. It will also reduce the printing expenses maybe, but still you have to understand this digital currency is quite different from the cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency is a deregulated and decentralized system, as in like it is not controlled by any one authority. But this central bank backed digital currency is different, because it is not run on any platforms like Bitcoin platform or Ethereum blockchain platforms, but this is regulated by the government. This is just similar to your rupee, but in the digital form. It would not have any printed form. So that is how you would be viewing this digital currency. But generally, cryptocurrency has other benefits, like since it's deregulated, decentralized, like there is no one person can like control the system, even though it sounds like an anarchy, but it has like benefits, like it has it is based on ledger system. Like the ledgers are distributed all over the world in different servers, and it is easy to trace each of the transactions, and it is not easy to print a fake currency to crypto like blockchain platforms. So it has its own benefit, not to ignore them. And whether the digital currency will provide the same benefits is highly doubtful, because as I was saying, it is not a deregulated, decentralized system. It is more like a substitute for the actual fiat money. Fiat money is something the government distributes, prints and distributes. So the government has this sovereign authority over this digital currency as well. And since we have talked about digital currency, let's jump onto quickly into cryptocurrency, which has been cryptocurrency and other virtual digital assets have been taxed at 30%, which is not again welcomed by other in the general finance area. But it is, again, we have to see how this will affect the distribution as well as such, because if like the cryptocurrency investments have been growing at a large level in the country, this could be one way to regulate it, and another could be a profitable income source for the government as well. But where it could be an issue would be that if this thing is like crypto trading has been done mostly by the richer community, then it might lead to the reduction in the inequality, and also towards, since the portion of trading has been huge. It's not like the crypto trading is like in any small amount. It has been a huge amount in the last few years. And another thing could be divert the income into the investments into other sections, like stock market, which could be leading into investment for future. This could be some of the benefits if it works well. But at this point, like there's not been huge appreciations towards this taxation as well. So these are some of the major concerns. Another one is that, again, there is an increase in the defense investment, which could be given to other socially important sectors as well. But again, there are a lot of backings to how financial security defense is important. But as long as there is proper investment towards defense, and like again, this investment, like going to defense startups could also can have multiplier effects in terms of nation's growth, but only if it is done in the proper way. But still, I believe that like defense investment is something like the government has been like doing a bit too much, and that something could be at least kept on par, if not like even increasing it like 10% or something every year. And another thing is like Isab is saying, like the income side and those things. It's not just that we should be looking into the recent future, but we have to think about any spending that will be having multiplier effect in the long term, so that even some borrowings can help grow the nation as a whole in terms of reducing inequality and providing better social infrastructure. I believe like I've covered most of the points that I've kept in my mind, and I wanted to keep it brief as well. Happy to take any questions later, and thank you all for providing this opportunity and listening to me patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your perspective on budget. Your systematic approach on the same will definitely make students to think on the pros and cons of the budget. The fact which you provided will definitely be beneficiary to the participants and the students as well. Thank you so much, sir. I'm extremely elated to have an astounding speaker, Mr. KJ Venkatesh, sir, Chartered Accountant, Chandramouli and Association. Sir, I feel glad to invite you to address the gathering, sir.
Good morning. I would like to say thanks to the principal, yes, Padmavati, Dr. Harish and Mehta, Associate Secretary of the institution, Anuradha Madam, for giving this opportunity. The other panelists, Jyoti ji, Nitin ji, Tejaswini, Ravish, and Kiran. A very good morning to you, and very good morning to you girls. Today, what I'm going to talk about, what every budget is a. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can I proceed?
Yes, sir, of course.
Okay. See, let me see what has this person got to say about the budget. What we do understand about budget. The layman, I'll either like to state as a story. How do we get benefit? What is the benefit derived out of the budget? So keeping in that, our college is in T Nagar, correct? If you agree with me. Then we have got a lot of traders around us. They come under the segment of MSME, micro, small, medium enterprises. What do they get out of the budget? Basically, they are traders. What do? They convert cash. They have got cash. They purchase good. Then they purchase good. Some for cash and some for credit. Then from the raw material what they purchase, they convert that into working capital. Goods by making some working on it. Then they make the product ready for sales. And those products have come to the market in form of T Nagar, and that comes and that is sold to the customers. This is how the cycle works. So, what is the impact on this budget? The budget says that I'm going to talk about the MSME sector. What are the benefits available to them? And explain to you a small part, a micro part, which will make you understand what is the impact of the budget on a trader, rather than talking about what as a whole. Okay. Now, what has happened is the government in this budget has extended the guaranteed emergency credit line for another year. What is this emergency credit line? For example, a trader has taken a loan for 5 lakhs for his working capital from a bank. So that was during pre-COVID period. The government came with a scheme saying that it will give extend a guarantee, and the bank has to give them 20% of what was the limit on February to get more loan for working capital. So the banks, the customers avail them. Who wish to avail them? Why do they avail it? Let's look at the background. What we do as a trader, he purchases raw material, then he processes it. But processing it, he has a lot of overheads, the rent, he has to pay salary, wages, others to his staff, electricity, and other indirect expenses to get his product ready. Once the product is ready, he sells for a certain amount of money with the tax component on that. So that's the process of business cycle. So the government has given them the loans, banks to extend loans to 20%. What happens is, so the working capital goes to them. He has to be prudent to ensure that the excess of working capital which is required, which has been given by them to the bank to this scheme, is used properly to do his business. He has to ensure that he cuts the cost wherever possible. One man's, as you know that one man's profit is other man's poison. One man's bread is other man's poison. The same way, you have to ensure that he also cuts other costs. Once the other costs are cut, then only we'll be able to survive. Not necessary to make his profit business, run his profit business in profit. So Vanding has really turned around certain situations where we had a luxury of getting good, paying more and getting good benefits. But now the money has become the constraint. So the money has started to shrink. So we are doing in such a way that we ensure that we use our working capital in such a way and get maximum benefit out of it. Maximum benefit out of it. So he has to ensure that the rent is in the minimum. All this. So this is how the MSME, the business cycle works. So what the government has done is, the government has given additional working capital term loan facility, fund-based facility only. The traders make use of it, and they have to ensure that they streamline their business. You cannot be complaining everything that the government has to do for us. It is our responsibility to ensure that in this epidemic, ensure that we change our way of our lifestyle and make use of the benefits which has been derived or which have been indicated by the government. That's what the budget is trying to do about. But the budget is it's a no-frills budget. The budget is, government is not giving us any more frills, freebies, and all that are being stopped, because we have to be self-sufficient and we earn our bread. It's not that government gives us bread; we earn our bread. We as you people, as the young citizens of India, have to understand that we have to be dependent on ourselves, and the government is only helping us to some extent by making policies, and that comes to the process of budget. Hope the budget process is clear. Can I proceed? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can I proceed?
Yes, yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
You're audible. Okay, I will proceed. So this is how the budget process, our trade cycle works. In this, what does the budget do for us? We can talk about government has done this, government has done that, but how do we read a budget? For example, we talk about petroleum products. The tax on petroleum products. We know that petroleum prices are increasing, but what is the other alternative available? The government has started to develop infrastructures like railways and other mass transportation system. Wherein by transporting, making use of them, we will be able to reduce the cost of our inputs or cost of our transportation. That's why we have to read the budgets. We should always not about complain saying that this has happened and this is going to cost us more and all this. We need to understand what the government is trying to say to us, and make use of it. It doesn't mean whether this is going to be this government or other government. They always have got their plans. They give it to us, saying this is what our intentions are. Please make use of it. If the government will not be able to help you one by one, it is on the common interest. They give the budgets. So we have to understand it and make use of it. Whatever is available to us, that will be only we'll be able to do that. Whereas we should not complain about it, saying that the government has not done anything to us. Other thing. Hope my story of interpreting a budget is nice to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your.
I like that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, you're audible, sir.
Hope my way of interpretation of budget is understandable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is very much understandable, and your suggestions over the budget will definitely make students to it will inculcate in them, sir, how to go on with the understanding government schemes and policies. And we cannot throw our cons just like that. We have to have an analysis of what has already happened. Thank you so much for your insights on a budget, sir. Thank you so much. I am glad to invite Mr. Ravish Maniar to address the gathering. Such an elated speaker. Yes, sir, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank management for inviting me. And as there is a short of time, I will share my presentation and we will discuss important updates in direct taxes. Okay, is my presentation is viewable?
Yes, sir, it is. We are able to see.
So in direct taxes, there are few major amendments which has been taken place. So out of this, we will discuss the important ones, and the rest we'll see depend upon the time. Okay. So major important amendment, a new section which has been inserted is 139(8)(a). So earlier, the person used to file original return or revised return, or he used to file belated return. But now government have given another opportunity to file a taxpayer return. So this return can be filed 2 years from the end of the assessment year. Okay. For example, now for the financial year 21-22. So the return can be filed 2 years from the end of the assessment year, that is 31st March 2025. So who can file this return? So any person can file whether he had originally filed or not. But there is some conditions. He has to make tax payment. If there is no tax payment, then he cannot file this return. Okay, there are a few other ineligible cases, as if there is a loss return, or if there is any increase in refunds while filing the return, or if there is any assessment proceedings, so seizures, if anything is going on, then this return cannot be filed. But for filing this return, the taxpayer has to pay also some penalty or fees. So we will see how much penalty is there. So if taxpayer files return within first 12 months, that is from the end of assessment year, in first 12 months, he has to pay penalty at 25%. So penalty he has to pay on tax and interest amount. And if he filed return after 12 months and that up to 24 months, he has to pay the penalty at 50%. So this is the major amendment took place in this budget, where now government have given opportunity, if there is any mistake happen, or if anyone has not declared, to declare him his income by way of filing this return. So next important section is one of our panelists has also discussed about taxability of cryptocurrency, that is virtual digital asset. So tax rate for virtual digital asset has been decided at 30%. But this is earlier there was no tax rate defined for this kind of transfer or this kind of income. But now government has specifiedly said that there is a tax rate for this is 30%. Government has also said that there will no deduction. So if you have incurred any expenditure for transferring this asset, or there is any expenditure incurred, any kind of expenditure, you are not able to get this as an deduction. If there is any losses while transferring this asset, the loss cannot be set off, or this cannot be carried forward in further years. There is one more section has been inserted under TDS. So whenever there is a transfer of digital asset, the person who is buying the asset, he has to deduct the TDS. So this provision is important for government. This provision has been inserted to track how much amount of asset has been transferred. For this, TDS provision has been inserted. So in case there is a gift of any digital asset, it will be taxable in the hands of receiver. So even there is a family transfer of any, so if husband is transferring some of his currencies to the wife, now it will be taxable. And this provision is effective from 1st April 2023. So in this 115 JC, to reduce the burden of cooperative society and to make it parallel with Companies Act and other things, they have reduced minimum alternative minimum tax rate to 15%. Earlier it was 18%. So these are few small amendments in this ATCCD. Earlier there was in 10% deduction for new pension scheme. Now it has been increased to 14%. Then extension for ATIC, that is for startup, they had given one more year, that is 31st March 23. Okay. Other few small amendments. The litigation, earlier what used to happen, when department, in the similar kind of cases, department used to go for litigation in high courts and Supreme Courts. So there used to be multiple litigations, same kind of identical cases, there used to be multiple litigation. So government has said, okay, no need of doing multiple litigation. If any one litigation is there for, and the similar kind of cases are pending, then you not need to file the appeal in High Court or Supreme Court. Then other important is under 115D BBD. So if any Indian company is receiving dividend from foreign company, so now there used to be a concessional tax rate of 15%. This has been removed. The new incorporated company, the tax rate is 15% for manufacturing. So this was up to 31st March 2023, which has been extended to 31st March 2024. Okay. Surcharge on capital gain. So this surcharge is applicable when there is a capital gain is more than 50 lakhs. So now this was earlier the surcharge was upon slabs up to 37%. That is, when there is a capital gain more than 5 CR, it used to be 37%. So now this has been capped at 15%. So whatever may be the income, maximum surcharge would be 15%. Few other for COVID, if anyone is receiving, in case of death, government is giving any amount, or if any person is receiving any sum for the treatment of corona and these things. So that income is exempted. Now the broad earlier what used to happen whenever there are any search and seizure taken place, and if any finding is shown in raid cases, so what people used to take advantage, they used to set off the same with their losses, if any. So now government has said, okay, no such set off is allowed. If anything has been found in such cases, that is taxable. Then surcharge for corporates has been reduced from 12 to 7%, but this is only up to 1 CR to 10 CR. Above 10 CR, it is again 12%. And last amendment is we used to pay TDS of at 1% when we used to buy the property. So now government has said it should be on stamp duty value or the purchase value, whichever is higher. What people used to do is we used to pay it on only at a agreement value and not in stamp duty. So if my stamp duty value is more and agreement value is less, I used to deduct TDS at agreement value. So now government has specifically said that you will have to pay at a higher, either at a stamp duty value or agreement value. So these are all important amendment. I will hand over to next panelist. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your detailed view on each section. This information will help the participants to understand the budget, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm really glad to have a vibrant speaker, Ms. Tejaswini Jagannathan, consultant in Ernst & Young LLP. I'm glad to invite you to address the gathering. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. So thank you for inviting me for this session, and it's really an honor to share the panel with such esteemed people. So thank you so much for inviting me, and a very good morning to each and everyone who's present here. So I think people have spoken before me, have given an elaborate view on what exactly a budget is, and what are all the key highlights of the budget. And I think direct tax provisions have been very much highlighted by Mr. Ravish. So moving on to understand what exactly this budget tried to achieve, because my perspective of this budget 2022 was more like to understand what are all the areas that the government tried to touch upon at this point of time. So I think this is the shortest speech that our Honorable Union Finance Minister has given in the last 4 years of her reign. So it's more like I think it's more short when compared to the 2020 budget, which lasted for about 2 hours, more than 2 hours actually. So to analyze the key areas that has been given, as we know, there are a lot of I think on the date of budget, every single Indian becomes an economist, and people are like, what is going to come up, what is going to happen to the stock prices, whether it's going to fall, whether it's going to go up, and end of the day, it all boils down to the fact for a common man, whether am I going to spend an extra penny from my own pocket. I have been spending 100 rupees, so on and so forth, until today. And am I going to spend more than that 100 rupees from Feb 1st of 2022 is going to be the consideration of every single man in the country. So I think that's how a common man would look at the budget. So looking at that particular fact, I think most areas which are going to increase in terms of money are imported goods, because the customs duty on imported goods have been considerably increased. Duties on umbrellas have been increased. And on the other side, I believe mobile phones, chargers, and imitation jewelries, all of those are going to come down when compared to the previous financial year. So this is an overall impact on the pricing structure, we can say. And every budget will have a surprise package. So I think the surprise package in 2022 budget was the digital rupee and the tax on digital assets. So the tax on digital assets, as Mr. Nitin highlighted as well, it's more like it was deregulated. There is no specific organization which talks about cryptocurrency, which regulates cryptocurrencies and all that so far in India. But at least by bringing it under the Finance Bill 2022, it is the government has communicated to people who are using cryptocurrencies that it is not going to be banned in the near future, at least. So I think that is one step towards accepting cryptocurrencies is what I would look at it as. And it's not just the 30% tax rate. There are other disadvantages as well in that particular bill, because I think losses cannot be set off. Losses from transfer of the digital assets cannot be set off, and the tax rate as well is 30%, which is a flat 30% on that. And I guess most of the people have not welcomed that amount. So it's like a portion of your gain is going to be transferred completely as tax. So not everybody is welcoming that. And apart from that, as the finance minister highlighted as well, I think there are 4 pillars of this particular budget, and those are productivity, climate change, and financing investments, and the other one is inclusive development. So talking about climate change, I think a major portion, around 19,500 crores have been allocated for developing solar modules, and chemical-free agriculture has been initiated. Kisan drones have been initiated, and apart from software as a service, now something called drone as a service is going to be implemented. So all of these are all under very initial stages in terms of the budget speech. We'll have to wait and see where it is going to take our economy to, because I believe a conservative approach or a conservative forecast has stated that if we maintain 8% growth in GDP for the next 5 to 8 years, then India will become a $5 trillion economy. But I think IMF and World Bank has given a much more aggressive forecast, which says we will be having at least 9% growth rate. And I think by far the largest growth rate expected in all the developing economies. So I believe this budget has set a foundation for India to move towards a $5 trillion economy. So it has brought in a lot of new things. I think previously there was no special task force assigned for gaming and animation and all, which has been brought out in this particular budget specifically. And we have asked a lot of foreign universities to come and set up, and I believe Gujarat is going to be the first state to have that benefit of having foreign universities. One good thing is that they will not be under Indian regulations, and they'll be having they'll be monitored under the international regulations, and I think that is going to open up a lot of opportunities to the youngsters who are going to study in those universities. Digital universities are going to come up according to the budget, and then e-Vidya, the concept of e-Vidya has been brought in. And another important scheme that has been implemented in the current budget is the link up of rivers. And we have a lot of, I think, the international aid allocations as well. Despite military rules in Myanmar and Taliban rule in Afghanistan, India has managed to allocate funds to those countries as well, to aid them as well. So I think India has retained its promise of helping the people, and it's not towards any political institution as well, but the promise was towards the people, and India has retained the promise and has completed that, which is a very big step in terms of collaboration amongst the foreign countries. And we've already had a lot of good connections with the foreign nationals, thanks to our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister. So this is more of I see this more as a reform budget, and there is no such thing called a perfect budget. So nobody can come up with a perfect budget which everybody will be able to appreciate. So there are a lot of remarks, or there are a lot of comments on the budget that has been given, especially because around 85% of the population has suffered in the pandemic in terms of their regular income, and there is no benefit in terms of tax cuts. People were expecting an increase in ATD and ATC deductions, which again did not happen in the current budget. So we're not sure whether it's going to happen in the next year's budget as well, considering the deficit that we are running at. So, and I think there is the scheme of, again, the virtual digital assets, that is a surprise package, as I told you. And India is, I believe, if I'm not wrong with the statistics, it's like the third largest country not largest, the third largest country which has the startup ecosystem. So basically a lot of entrepreneurs are coming up in India, and I think an initiative towards towards helping those startups have been provided in the current budget. So I think startups and manufacturing entities under Section 115 BAB, all of those things have been concentrated in the current budget, and a lot of foreign investments have been opened up. So on one side, though we have increased the customs duty on imported goods, we have opened up a lot of opportunities for foreign direct investments, and export avenues have been opened, which will help India to set foot in the international market to a larger extent. So the macroeconomic factors which has been discussed by the previous panel members, taking all of them into consideration, I think India is going to do very, very well in the upcoming years, and I think the roadmap to a $5 trillion economy is something that we will achieve sooner than what is being expected if we are able to implement everything that has been suggested in the budget. Because every time budget gets proposed, there are a lot of schemes, lot of jargons, lot of words thrown out, and after a month or so, people forget about what all has been shown in the budget, what all has come up in the budget, and nobody keeps a track of it until the next budget. And like a lightning, Feb 1st 2023 comes out, and people look at the next budget, they say that 9.2% or 8%, whatever is the GDP growth, and we accept the growth. So I believe it's a constant effort that needs to be there from the citizen side as well, in order to keep track of what is happening in the country, so on and so forth, after the budget has been announced. That is the most important thing that every citizen, every responsible citizen is supposed to do. And we are also liable to contribute towards the growth of the nation in terms of the daily work that we do, in terms of the investments that we do. Everything everything has a greater impact. We might not realize the impact that we are creating, but everything definitely has a major impact on the macroeconomic factors. And I think a lot of focus was given to the banking units, IFSC areas and all that. So I think to mark 75 years of independence, 75 digital banking units are going to come up. So a lot of these initiatives are being proposed by the government, and another important thing that has been proposed is e-passports. I think e-passports using embedded chip is going to come up very, very soon. So I think that is going to open up, or that's going to streamline or make the international travel process a little more easier for all those businessmen and women out there. So let's just hope that whatever has been proposed by the government will be they'll be able to implement it smoothly, and let's hope for a better future. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am, for highlighting the major components of the budget. Your perspective on this budget will definitely inspire the students to look into the Indian economy, and it will definitely make them to get involved in all these things in future. Thank you so much. I'm really glad to have a vibrant speaker, and I'm very proud to introduce our alumni young talent, Ms. Kiran Mala, article assistant amongst us. I invite you to address the gathering now.
Thank you, ma'am. Good day to everyone. It's a very pleasure to
to have everyone in this, and I am very glad to take this up panel member list along with all the panel members. All the experts, they have already shared about how we have to view the budget and what all the highlights of the budget has been already shared by the panel members. I'm just going on some areas where I find that it is being a very good budget, and there were some highlights which were really appreciable in this budget. This I'm directly going on my appreciable views, keeping the time constraint. So first thing which I feel is, yes, about this digital currency is very much innovative way and which the country is looking for, which leads to a bigger development for our nation. And it should be a big success of implementation should be at a task. And as they are going for a blockchain model in the digital implementation, digital currency method. And to the next point coming to is transfer of digital asset, virtual digital assets, where the cryptocurrencies, everything is being taxed at 30%. Yes, as rightly said by Ms. Tejaswini, that some category of people is being affected because of this, because there is no carry forward of losses. And this provision seems like something similar to the gambling provisions, where we don't have any benefit of this thing. 30% of flat rate of tax we have, not of setting off, or this one is there, set off is not there, and these things have to be mainly given view that, as per my views, general public view or my view is that this being replaced is really important. As Nitin said also, so it is being deregularized form. So we have to taxing this is the best way, I think so. Though some people are getting affected because of this, but I may have the other views, other way of investment in stock markets and other things. So it's being a thing. And the next thing which I feel is the ECLGS extension of 50,000 crore. It's mainly allocated for the healthcare sector in this pandemic time is really welcoming one. So because of this COVID hit, the hospitality sector, which requires more funding. And the main focus of this budget was like towards the infrastructure and helping towards MSME sectors. So with this, there are more allocation for the PLIs. So production investments have been made, incentives are given. And to the agriculture sector, while speaking to the agriculture sector, this chemical-free agriculture, so chemical-free farming is a big announcement, which I feel that it will be an expansion for our export as well as will give a healthy nation for economy. And as the budget doesn't speak much about the people and the salary people as to be expect, but before the speech, our panelist Jyoti sir has told us, so the budget to be viewed in a way as of economy and not in a personal perspective, an individual perspective. Though we are having less contribution towards our taxation, but we feel like this January GST collection was the highest one. So I feel it is going to be a progressive one, and we will achieve to the our international market too. And the next one, which has there was more allocation to the infrastructure and rural areas and northeastern states. So like Prime Minister development incentives for northeastern states, and these things are to be felt like welcoming one. The next, which I could feel to share is, so there is an expansion in capital expenditure for 7.5 lakhs. So there is expansion in the capital expenditure of 7.5 lakhs, where in the financial year 21-22 it was 5.5 lakh crore. So there is a huge increase, but this was, I think this will be for the purpose of infrastructure development. And I look that they are progressive budget. It is a progressive and forward-looking budget. So it prepares India for the next stage of its sustained growth. So there are e-Vidya scheme as already stated by Ms. Tejaswini, like e-Vidya from, because of this pandemic, we are having online classes and other things. So the government has initiated Prime Minister e-Vidya scheme of from 12 channels to 200 channels. That is one class, one channel, one class, one channel, the scheme. So education is being a primary important for our nation. So focusing on these things will help our nation to a progressive level. And yes, as already all the tax related things has been shared by Ravi sir. So this cooperative taxation from cooperative society taxes from 18.5% to 15% is like bringing parity to the corporate level. So we can have better benefit out of this. And the next is surcharge reductions. So to the surcharge reductions, everything has been already discussed of the panelists. Yes, I feel like this budget is going to be a forward-looking budget, and it prepares India to the next stage and to have a sustained growth. Thank you, Ms. Kiranmala, for your valuable inputs on the budget. Thank you. Due to time constraint, we have a next session at 11:20. So if the participants have any queries, kindly mail to us and the same will be forwarded to the panelists and we'll definitely get back to you with all the answers. Thankfulness is the beginning of gratitude. Gratitude is a completion of thankfulness. With that note, I invite Madam Dr. C.R. Rupa Ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, to propose the vote of thanks.
A very good evening all. I take immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks on this occasion. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the management, Principal Dr. S. Padmavati and Vice Principal Dr. S. Rukmani for their continuous support and encouragement. My heartfelt thanks to our distinguished panel of speakers for today for sparing their valuable time and enlightening us on the sector-wise highlights of the Union budget for the year 22-23. As it was discussed, we hope this budget will step up investment on infrastructure and digitalization to strengthen the economy as it recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic. I am sure today's session has been a great knowledge sharing experience for each one of us. I am also grateful to the IQAC and Department of Commerce Shift 1 for their tireless effort in organizing this event. A special thanks to all the academicians, students, and participants for their active engagement in today's discussion. My sincere thanks to the technical team for their support and coordination. I request all the participants to kindly fill the feedback link posted in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I request all the participants to raise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you, girls. I once again